good group. I'll let some more people in. I'm sure they'll show up. So let's get started. Good afternoon or good morning or good evening to everybody, depending on where you are. Thanks so much for coming on today's chat. Very happy to have Echo Rivera with us to chat about all sorts of stuff that we're going to talk about. Just a couple of things before we start, because I keep getting these questions, so I'll just knock them off right now. Yes, I'm going to continue doing this series is probably through the end of April. My office was just closed to the end of April, so I'll be doing these to the end of April, and we'll see how long I can manage to do that. You know, working at home is like the opportunity to like stay in your pajamas all day. But since I have to be on camera, it's like, I kind of have to at least put on something. Today I'm wearing, this is my data shirt for today. So I am trying to wear data shirts every day. This one I got at Google at some point. So that was one. Yes, we'll keep doing this. Next week's lineup was just posted to the Urban website, which I'll put here. In the chat box. If you want to sign up, you can register obviously beforehand, or you can register, you know, moments before. It doesn't really matter. Second question is on recordings. Yes, these are all being recorded. They will all be posted. We posted Nigel Holmes, which was the first one. We posted that this morning. So we are posting them and we'll just be putting them out, trying to catch up over the next few days. And then the third thing is, if there are people you would like to hear from or you would like to chat with, just send me a note. You can put in the chat window here, you can put on Twitter, you can send me an email, and I will try to get those people to join us. You know, when I ask people to show up, I'm like, hey, this is really low key, so there's no pressure. And so many people have been pretty happy to do it, which is great. Echo as an example. Appreciate you coming on. So with all of that being said, let's start. So Echo, why don't we just start by letting you tell everybody about yourself and your work, and we'll just take it from there, and we'll just see where the world takes us.
Sure. Oh, I'm excited. Yeah. So hello again, Echo Rivera here. And wow, where do I start? So I created my own business called Creative Research Communications. So I'm technically in the alt academic world, non-academic world. I got my PhD in community psychology. So I'm definitely not where I thought I would be, say, 5 years ago. It's been quite a journey from PhD, I'm going to be a professor at an R1 university, to now I'm just a little communications company helping academics and scientists and evaluators communicating effectively. Sort of a middle point there that got me to where I am now is I worked at a nonprofit research and evaluation center for 3 years. So that's kind of, again, why I'm also in the evaluation world a little bit. So yeah, academia, evaluation, and now communications. You know, I've just always had an interest in design and graphic design and art and those kinds of things. I almost went into graphic design instead of psychology. I didn't, because it would be faster to graduate with a psychology degree because of where I was. So it was like, I just need to get my bachelor's and move on with my life. But then I didn't move on. I went and got a PhD. So
a PhD with it, yeah. Yeah.
Because, you know, that's moving on.
So when you were doing your PhD, were you like, was your focus at all on how people communicate and how they receive information, or was it on a totally different field?
Totally different field. I actually,
wow.
Yeah, so community psychology, most people here on the call probably have never heard of that. And a lot of people think I'm like, I went to become a clinician in the community. Not the case. Actually, community psychology is basically a degree in community-based participatory research or participatory action research, or even a similar field as macro social work. We're all kind of similar. We have similar ideas. We want to change policy and, you know, improve sort of like cultures and communities to improve the mental and physical health of people in the community. So,
right.
So yeah, like that's kind of where I started. So really it was just research. I just wanted to do research with communities.
Right.
Most of my background is in domestic violence, actually, domestic violence research and policy, but then also just a lot of other topics.
Right.
Because again, it's about connecting with communities and just helping them do research projects. So yeah, we didn't focus on communication, but if you think about it, that by default means I have to be good at communicating. I have to be good at talking about research and data with people who probably never had any training in statistics or research at all.
Right. So now as a communications professional, yeah, exactly. Like, is it a data visualizer, like, I don't know, right? So as a communications professional, do you find that your training on doing research and working with data, does that help you help your clients and people you work with data better? Do you find yourself teaching them how to do that sort of research?
Yeah, it's definitely helped because I can speak their language and I can understand what they're going for. So when I have clients who have multiple regression data, I know what that is. I've done that.
Right.
So I can actually help them, just visualize that or create themes in their presentation so that they can communicate their, variables and models in more effective ways. If I had gone that graphic design route, I wouldn't have any idea what they're saying. Like, I would be like, I don't know what that is. Or I probably wouldn't. Not that graphic designers don't know that or can't learn it, but I'm just saying it has Yep. helped a lot, to know that, to know what a t-test is and those kinds of things. So, and I can also sort of flag when, oh, hey, you might be overstating your results a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
Like I understand the methodology. I understand what your sample size is. Maybe we should talk about that. And so I have also helped people just maybe, not overstate their results. Or sometimes it's the opposite. They're downplaying it. And I understand that their methodology is actually really strong. And so, maybe you don't have to say all of those disclaimers. So I can actually help with more than just the design. I can help with the verbal part, the story part.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your work with researchers? I mean, I think there's a lot of thought that we can talk about, and you and I probably could talk for hours later about this, but like, what are the challenges you find with researchers when it comes to, we're going to communicate this 600-page report on a 20-minute slide deck? What are the challenges you find? What are the common themes? Like, I mean, that's like the most like open-ended question I could ask. So however you want to answer that, but I guess the basic core of that question is, how do you help researchers who are used to working in these details, like bubble that stuff up?
Yeah. Ooh. I have to say, researchers and academics have actually been really awesome. They have a bad reputation, I think, but I haven't run into too many challenges. They tend to be very excited. You know what it is? They're almost looking for permission, and I'm giving them permission. They want to communicate with design. They want to communicate in engaging ways. But a lot of people are telling them, no, you can't. So I think that's the challenge. The outside world, their mentors, the people around them, they're worried what they're going to say. They're worried, is this professional enough? If I don't have 500 words on a slide, like, are people going to say I'm unprofessional? So that's the challenge. They're worried what other people are going to think. But once they start seeing how much better their presentations really are, how much more they enjoy giving those presentations, and then they actually do it, and people are like, that was awesome. That was the best academic presentation I've ever seen in my life. Oh my goodness. Then they're like, oh, okay, I guess I don't need to worry about the whole professionalism thing, know? So that would be the biggest challenge.
Interesting. I have found in working with academics, especially younger academics, that there's a big pushback against, better presentations, against blogging, against using social media, because they argue that it doesn't help their career. Like, it doesn't help their tenure case, their department chairs. Like, why are you spending 2 hours on a blog post when you could be doing your next research project? So have you run it? Like, have you seen that? Yeah. Okay. So you're nodding. So you've seen that too. So how do you, make the argument that, okay, so maybe it doesn't help you with tenure, but it's still good? Like,
okay, another challenge right there. Yeah, I'm still struggling with that, and I'm still working through that. And, I really try. I've actually avoided making a lot of it's good for your career arguments. Like I just published a video about that a couple weeks ago. But I've been doing this since 2016, blogging and that kind of thing. So I waited how long? 3 years before I actually made sort of an official post about how this is good for your career, because it's hard to make that argument. You know, we all, like, let's be real, publications are number one and they are what people need for tenure. So,
Yeah.
you know, I can't ignore that. I can't pretend like that's not true.
Right.
You know, and I do think effective presenting is good for your career, and, you know, basic things like job talks need to be really good, like stellar
Right.
good.
Yeah.
You know, so like basic things like that. But, you know, beyond that, it's so complex. There's so many moving parts. So I move toward internal motivation a lot. You know, people are bored with their own presentations, and that's just like not good for you as the presenter. It's not good for your audience. Don't be bored with your own work, you know, and a lot of people feel burnt out. And once you start being more creative with your presentations and you enjoy them more and you're not bored, you feel refreshed, you feel energized, you feel joy. And that's what I focus on a lot is, you know, you're just going to be happy internally with your work. So, you know, I've tried to do that. I don't know how convincing it always is, but when people try it, they feel it. And, you know, and it's real, that joy that people feel when they see people smiling and paying attention when you talk and not, you know, you know, like when you don't see this and you see people looking at you and nodding, you know, it's a good feeling. So I kind of focus on that.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So then extending that a little bit to the actual practical part of having someone build their slides. So I'm going to guess that I think you're a PowerPoint person, right? And by PowerPoint person, I mean, it's your preferred tool, not like...
I am now.
Okay.
If you asked me last year, I would have said, no, I'm a Keynote person, but I am a PowerPoint person now.
Okay. I mean, I, for one, I'm like, whatever makes you happy. But I will say, because I was going to get to the point of, you know, a lot of researchers, at least in economics, and I don't know if this is, I'm sure it's not true in all fields, but a lot of economists use Beamer, which is the LaTeX, you know, more math model one. So when you get people to buy into this idea that you're going to feel better by giving a good presentation, how do you then get them over the hurdle of, say, trying to make really nice looking slides in a tool like PowerPoint, where I run into researchers all the time who say, but I'm not a designer, and they kind of throw up their hands.
Yeah. Oh man, I've heard that too. Yeah. You know, yeah. So I also, I would say PowerPoint, Keynote, and Google Slides, any one of those, you can usually make a really nice presentation. PowerPoint's my number one because it has the most advanced features. So that's why I like PowerPoint, but I used Keynote for 15 years. That's how I learned presentation design. You know, I taught myself with Keynote. So yeah, the software doesn't necessarily matter. And then, you know, in terms of getting people to actually design their slides better, I've done that through training. I've done that through webinars and through my online courses. And, you know, I'm sure you've come across this too. Like there's just a way to explain it where you just, you know, it's step by step, piece by piece. And then, I don't know, that's very vague, but, you know,
it's a tool like anything else, right? You have to just, I mean, essentially just have to learn it, right?
Yeah. And really, you know, PowerPoint, it is advanced, but you don't need to use every feater in it anyway. Yeah. And there are some where I am like, do not use this.
I was going to say, you probably shouldn't use everything in there. Yeah.
Do not, like, just don't. So, you know, it's just, it actually is pretty simple. Like it doesn't require a lot of technical know-how. It doesn't require you to have a graphic design degree to create beautiful presentations. People just need to see it done, you know, and I show them through my training, and they need to learn the basics. My sort of foundational training series is about 4.5 hours. So in about 4.5 hours, you see the examples I create, and I show you, and I break it down for you. And then, you know, that helps people really get started and transform their presentations. But what doesn't really work is at least in my opinion, people definitely differ on this, but like a 45-minute quick tips and tricks You know, I've done those, and sometimes I feel like they're better than nothing. But then when I see the slides, I'm like, oh, but there's still some pieces missing.
Yeah.
It looks inconsistent sometimes. So yeah, I do encourage sort of the like complete transformation if possible.
Right. Yeah. The details do matter. This is like the final four of Lego Masters we were watching last night. Like, they're in the detail part. I see some people smiling because some people are watching this show, I assume. They're in like the details part, like the when you're at the top of the game, some of these little things really matters. And I've learned the term greebling, and there's another one called cheddaring or something like that. Oh yeah, there's a whole Lego thing going on at my house the last couple of weeks. So
I feel like I'm missing out now. Maybe I need to watch this. Get some new terms.
Oh, it's great. It's great. I will argue it's probably the best reality TV show out there. Okay, I don't know. That's what I'm gonna say.
Wow.
Okay, so you've talked about so let's talk about your online courses, because I'm going to guess a lot of people on this call are maybe they're thinking about creating their own online course, but they're certainly online way more than we were just a week ago. So again, I don't have a specific question for you, but maybe just talk about maybe why you decided to do online courses. And okay. All right. You're all warmed up. Go ahead.
Okay. I love doing online courses. Oh, it was the best decision I've ever made in my life, I feel like. It's really, really hard to do. It takes a lot of work. If you want online courses to be your main source of income, you got to give yourself years before you get to that point. Don't expect that within a year you're making a big chunk of money from it. It takes years to build it up. And I can talk about, I guess if there's like questions, let me know, because there's so many things I could talk about. I might just ramble, and that's not good for anybody.
Well, so Jorge put something in the chat box, that the thing in front of you that looks like a death ray. Which is a pretty amazing way to ask that question, Jorge. That's well done. Yeah.
Jorge, thank you. Yes, I would love to talk about my tech. I'm going to share my screen with y'all. Okay. I put it in PowerPoint so I can draw. So here is my desk setup. Okay. So let me just hop over here. Ooh, why don't we do rainbow today? Okay, yeah. So Death Ray over here, right? That is an Electro Voice RE20 with a shock mount. That's this like big metal thing there, and a pop filter. Okay. And that mic there is an ATR Audio Technica 2100. So the first thing you want to do, and I think everybody should do this right now, especially because we are all online, get a mic, a real mic, please. For the love of all things caffeinated, do not use your computer mic. Do not use your webcam mic. Do not use any other mic. Like, please, like I could spend 30 minutes just repeating myself because it's that important. Like, please get a mic. My RE20 is obnoxious and ridiculous for video calls. You would not get this, especially because it actually requires that thing back there, that little red box. That's my interface. And I even have this thing here. Okay. This is called a preamp, and this processes my voice before you even hear it. I have very sharp S's, but they do not sound sharp when you hear them, because that thing right there processes them and has noise reduction, right? So I have a very ridiculous setup because I teach online courses. I didn't start with this. My first course I recorded in 2017. So I didn't start with this, but this is why, like, you've been on a lot of calls, and you've probably noticed that my voice doesn't sound tinny. It doesn't sound echoey. Haha. Like it sounds warm and full and clear. If my neighbor's dog started barking, you wouldn't hear it like you would with a computer mic, or my least favorite mic in the world, a Yeti. And I can go on a rant about how much I hate the Yeti. Okay. So yeah, so that's like my audio. You can also see I have 2 monitors, and that's so that over here, you know, if you can kind of look through all of my drawings here, or like I can see my notes. I have a script. I'm very big on writing scripts for your presentations. So I have a script. I can see what slides are next. And I actually popped this webcam over here on my second monitor, and I like flip my monitor this way so you can see, you would see a different background in my videos. In my recent YouTube videos, you can see it's actually a different background. It's right here, and I have like books, and it's a little cleaner than all of this. The other thing you want to make sure is you have, which I see a lot of people have right now, is you want headphones separate from your mic. I don't recommend the combined headsets with the like combined headset and mic. Those do not sound very good. Separate pair of headphones, they can be cheap. These are like 11-year-old broken headphones that I got from my partner. So the headphones don't really matter, but have you all noticed on calls recently, there's an echo, like an echo happening? That's because someone's not wearing headphones. So wear headphones. Okay. There's my setup. There's like an overview. So yeah, now ask me like anything you want about
that was great.
So much
so
Yeti hate.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that because as I was telling you before we started, my microphone, my good microphone broke like a week ago, and I was like holding it together with tape, and it's finally dead. But then I tried to buy a new one. I mean, they're hard to get now because everybody's buying microphones. So if you are trying to get yourself a new microphone or a new webcam, just be prepared to have to wait a little bit.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, and so Dana said that she uses a Fifine USB mic. Yeah, so the ATR 2100 that I showed you, that is a USB mic. You wouldn't need the preamp, the interface. You wouldn't need all that kind of stuff. You just plug it in and go. And if you're going to get a USB mic, just don't get a Yeti.
Yeah, I have the Blue Snowflake as my travel mic, which is also like $30. This is the smaller version. It like sits on top of my Mac here. It's not as good as the bigger mics, but this is all I have left right now. But you know, but I think as you said, and everybody's saying in the chat box, anything you can do, anything you buy is going to be an upgrade from what your headphones, AirPods, or the computer mic is going to get.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you set up the video when you think about the video? You said you had these two different views. So when you're setting that up about the background, like how do you think about setting that up? Where do you sit relative to the webcam? All those sorts of like real logistical detail questions.
Yeah.
Now maybe you don't think about this anymore because you have it set up, but
yeah, you know, I try to keep. So I use Open Broadcaster Studio to record my screen, and in OBS you can crop your webcam a little bit. So I do that to get rid of all of the background, and I also try to keep my background pretty clean. Like it's books, and I have decorations because I just like that. I like having stuff on my desk, so it's like my personality. But then most of it is just kind of a blank wall. And then I just crop a little bit, so it is mostly like this area here,
like Vogue style. Okay.
So I would say just try to not have a lot of background if you can. I mean, some people really go all out and they will like paint a wall, and that's where they do their videos. I don't really have the ability to do that, and I like to record in my own office. I'm very comfortable here. And I actually face this wall more because of my lights. That's something I didn't mention. I actually have 2 lights over there. So when I'm recording, and I have this really cool boom, I can like move it anywhere I want. And so I can move it. I've got my lights here and my webcam there. So it was more based on the lights and where I needed to get them. Okay. You should have lights as well.
Yeah, I just bought, after we had Anne on one of these talks, I bought this little light. It's fine today actually without it. It's sunnier here because I have a window in front of me, but when it's it has been pouring here the last few days, and so it's been really dark. So that's been helpful.
Yeah, I don't use the lights for video calls.
Right.
And I don't even use them. Like sometimes I'll use them for webinars, sometimes I won't, but I do typically, I mean, I live in Denver, so I'm usually pretty okay in terms of sunlight.
Yeah.
But for recording, I just want sort of like better lighting. So
Mm-hmm.
that is when I use the lights. But yeah, something like what you have, a window is usually good for video calls, maybe even webinars.
Yeah. I'm just going to prompt people again to throw your questions in the chat window. There you go. And Megan, if you want to unmute yourself and just chat, that's fine. Like, it doesn't need to be one-on-one here at all. So Megan, I think you can unmute yourself, but.
Yeah, I can.
Megan is baiting me.
I am baiting her. I know the answer to this question, but it's a good topic, I think. Also, I should say Echo helped me. We hired Echo to make my company's PowerPoint template. So I'm kind of cheating. I am baiting her.
That's okay. Okay, all right. Now everybody's just baiting me. Dana, do you agree with 1 slide per minute? I love you both. Okay, so PowerPoint templates. No, do not use them. Please. I have a video on YouTube. You can watch it. It's 5 features in PowerPoint that I pretend don't even exist because they're so unhelpful. PowerPoint templates are one of those. Smart art is another. Design ideas is the third. And I don't even remember. One of them was whatever you do to distort your images. So don't do that. I can't remember the 5th. That's funny. And I just made it recently. But yeah, so no templates. They encourage you to violate tons of best practices for presentation design. They add clutter to your slides. They make your text too small. They just encourage you to do bad things that create death by PowerPoint. So no to templates. You can edit the master slides and make your own. That's what I did for Megan and her team. But, you have to override basically everything in the template. So no templates. And then Dana asking if I agree with 1 slide per minute. Well, I hate that rule just as much as I hate Yetis. So equal hate right here.
Yeah.
That advice is the worst advice. It pushes you in the wrong direction. You cannot make truly engaging presentations that hook your audience from beginning to end if you follow the rule 1 slide per minute. It really is the worst thing, and the first thing I convince people to let go of. Yep. And rant.
I know. I 100%. I think that's the dumbest rule that I've ever heard.
It's awful.
I tell people there is zero correlation between the number of slides and what you're trying to get across. The only thing that matters is your content. Like, that's what matters. Yes. Like, however this number of slides help you get your content across, that's what matters.
And you know what? +1, 100%. That's what I say too. I mean, exactly. I'm with you.
So Dana's curious about using that master slide template. So I don't know if you want to do that now or put that in the hopper for more work.
So Dana, that's actually part of my paid training program. So I don't anticipate creating a blog post or video about that, but I have a whole, so yeah, I do the 4.5 hours training, which is delivered in 3 workshops. And then at the end, there's a 90-minute workshop that shows you how to edit master slides to automate almost everything I taught in those 4.5 hours. So
I'm almost embarrassed to say that I haven't gone through your videos, and so I don't know how you approach this. But let me ask, when you are teaching that, in particular, that last one that you just mentioned about you're doing something in PowerPoint, you're showing people how to do something in PowerPoint. So there's a lot of clicking and moving and menus and all that stuff. When you create those videos, how do you set that up? Are you showing your face and the screen simultaneously? And if you do that, are you setting up your camera in a different angle? I've seen lots of different approaches to this. I really like this website, ExcelJet, where he records his screen and you don't hear the clicks, and then he narrates on top of it later. So it's like, it's 2 steps. I'm just curious, what your take on that is.
Yeah, so I do 2 different styles. I do content, which would work for any presentation software you use. So that's like learning about concepts such as cognitive overload to make sure that you do not create cognitive overload, right? So that's just slides, and some of my videos, I'm a disembodied voice. That was when I first started. That's when I was using the Yeti. So I've used the Yeti. Like I used it for 2 years, which is why I hate it so much. I've since learned better. So I did for that. I just needed to get going. I just needed to record. So this was when I was actually still working full time at that evaluation center. So I came home tired, it'd be the weekends and I just didn't want to put my face on. So I was not turning that camera on, like I was in my PJs. Like I just had to get the videos done.
Right, just get it done. Yeah.
So no camera. But now, especially with my like fancy pants setup, I'm actually going through and re-recording pretty much everything. I'm updating everything. I'm re-recording. This is a big year for that. And now I am, for the content videos, I've got my face on there because I'm very, as you can see now, like I'm very expressive, that's very natural for me. And I think people seem to like that. And so I'm going to have to put my face on more, wear PJs less, and just like do it and get the videos on there. So they are now starting to have videos for the content. For the tech training where I actually walk people through, I don't have my video on there because then I'm distracting, right? Like if I'm over here flying around and people are supposed to be looking at menus, like that's not helpful. I'm creating visual clutter by doing that.
Right.
So for that, it is just, I'm just showing my screen.
Just a screen.
Yeah, for the walkthroughs. So.
And then for the content ones, have you set it up where your face is like in the bottom? You're in the bottom right or whatever. Yeah.
Bottom right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think that's. I've seen the one I like. There's a guy, Dr. Chuck, whose last name I don't remember. He teaches Python, and I took one of his classes, and he had a unique setup where the screen was actually split in thirds. And so 2/3 of the screen was his screen. So you're seeing him code. And the other third is him with the camera sort of off to the side. So you're seeing him work on his computer, but it's from the side. So that was a kind of neat, I thought a neat approach to it because you can see him actually typing the code, which for that type of instruction, I found kind of helpful. Like, okay, he's actually doing this, right? It's not just some dude just copying and pasting into the browser.
Actually, that's funny you mentioned that because we're watching Fargo, the TV show right now. I don't know if anybody has seen that, but I'm on season 2 and they're doing this really cool video editing thing where it's split screen and they're showing 2 different things happening in each side. Sometimes it's the same person, but a different angle. Sometimes it's 2 different people and you're seeing what they're doing at the same time. Right. And I was like, I really like this. How could I use this for presentations? So you've just given me an example. I love it.
First thing you need to do is get a wood chipper. That's the first thing you need to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Take that, Yeti.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Let's see. So Megan had another question about slide makeovers.
Yeah. Cool question.
Yeah.
So what is the largest number of slides I turned one slide into? I haven't kept count, but I feel like I did recently do sort of like a quick call for a team where I remade one slide. And I did actually count it up for them. And I think I turned one slide into 12. I think it was over 10. So I have been able, again, it depends on how much information has been crammed on the original slide to begin with. A lot of people crammed too much. I mean, I think this particular slide had something like over 100 words. Oh, don't do, way too much. So it was actually pretty easy to just turn that into something like 12 to 15 slides.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, I ask because that was definitely one of my struggles in the beginning for sure. Like, I know there's too much stuff on here, but even when I came to you first, it's like, I don't know how to separate this out. And I'm very sure one of the ones you did for us, we actually turned into like 7 slides by the end of it. So
awesome.
For those who don't know, we gave Echo some like 5 or 6 problem child slides. And we're like, okay, we need the template, but we need your help. What do we do with this? And so we knew we had too much stuff on them. We just couldn't decide how to arrange it. And she helped us, gave us some good ideas for that. But it's always funny because we send each other our slides now amongst our team. You're like, okay, I know it's too crowded. Help me fix this. So it always makes me think of Echo.
You know, it's, and it's just habits. Like it really is about habits. Like we're so used to putting a lot of information on a slide and just, you know, it just takes practice, you know. Again, you know, Megan, and like what you see from me now, that's not how I was years ago. It takes a while to get there. And again, really, it's just practice. It's just doing it. And now I don't even have to think about it really. You know, I just create my slides and it's my new habit. So that's all it is. It's forming better habits.
Yeah. Let's see. Anyone else have any other questions or comments, at least in French? So Jamie has a question. Jamie, you can unmute yourself if you want to just talk to Echo. I don't need to read these aloud. But this is a good question on best places to go for slide design inspiration or examples.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's my website, perhaps. John's website, perhaps. Cole Nussbaumer-Knaflic she is one of my favorites. I've got her books. I love them. I learned so much from her. I've seen her talk. I just love her. Anne Emery, who is here next week, has great ideas as well. Stephanie Evergreen. I know I'm missing people. John, help.
Actually, the one that I like, no, I was gonna say the one that I like is, I mean, if you're interested in talking to other professionals in the space, the Presentation Guild is a great place to go. Steffi, I was waiting for you to wake up on that. The Presentation Guild, I'll put the link in a second, is great. Yes. And actually, one of the, I don't know if she's a board member, but Julie Turberg, who is at least very much in the guild and a designer, she had this project on Twitter. I think it was Slide a Day or something like that. And I mean,
I remember.
I go to her Twitter feed to just like scroll through because it was just her, like, I think she was just like playing around with form and design. And so that's one I go to. Presentation Panda, he sometimes has some good stuff. So, you know, it used to be like SlideShare before it was bought by LinkedIn would be a good resource. And I just, since it got bought by LinkedIn, I don't check it anymore, but I'll keep putting some more in there.
There's definitely a lot out there for sure.
Yeah.
Jorge asked about aspect ratios. I do widescreen 100% of the time. I do not do 4:3 anymore. And that's worked fine for me. I do mostly webinars and online courses. But even for in-person presentations, if it's been a 4:3, it just adjusts and it's a little smaller. But because, you know, I'm following a lot of best practices for presentation design, you could still see everything. It's still very clear. It's never been an issue if you have really well-designed slides. I've had one person have a nightmare scenario where they upgraded the projector to be widescreen, but didn't move it and didn't upgrade the screen to be widescreen. So it projected on the edges. Like it was the weirdest situation. Again, one horror story in years. Yeah. And you just need to adjust the display settings on your own laptop. You can change that into a 4:3 and it keeps all the proportions and then you can still present. So, you know, pretty much it should work.
I've been saying this more and more, like widescreen, no more 4:3, enough already.
Thank you, John.
And someone came back to me and said I'm pretty sure they said in their university, all the projectors and screens were still 4:3. So, but I think you're right that maybe the solution to that is, well, you fix the projection on your computer, and that way it'll work even with those 4:3 screens.
Right. And again, unless it's like a projector from 1970 or something like that, even modern 4:3 projectors can project 16 by 9. Like they
Yeah.
do adjust. So again, even if people are telling you, so like I see some comments, like even if when people tell you we have a 4x3 projector,
Right.
chances are, yes, that's true, but it will just shrink your widescreen into a 4x3. So it works, it'll still fit. But again, if you have like a size 12 font on your slides, you are going to make that smaller. The solution isn't to do 4x3. The solution is to use bigger font sizes. Right?
All right, there's two questions going on. One is on a thread about accessibility, which would be great. So I would love to talk about that.
Sure.
But let's get Jamie's question first. So Jamie asked about Prezi, and I will let. Okay, so I will let.
Thumbs down for Prezi. Thumbs down for Prezi. Now,
is it with the sorry, I'm blanking on the microphone. Is it in
Yeti?
is it with the Yeti?
All right,
in
Yeti's down here, but it's really on the floor because but you just can't see it.
Just where you can see it, yeah.
Prezi, oops. We're gonna put Prezi over here. PowerPoint's like up here, okay?
Right.
Keynote is like down here.
Right below it, right?
Is down there. Prezi is below there. Here's the thing. You can actually make wonderful presentations in Prezi. I used Prezi for about 3 years. I was one of those super annoying people. I am sorry. I'm going to make my penance. I told everybody to use Prezi. I used it. I said it was awesome. I said it was amazing. I said it was the best thing ever. So I was part of that annoying crowd, and I do apologize for that now. You can make really great presentations in Prezi. If you disable a lot of the zooming effects, you never spin, right? So like if you don't make people dizzy, if you don't annoy them with those effects, you can actually make really cool things in Prezi. But the reason why I don't recommend it is you can also do that in PowerPoint. You can make nonlinear presentations in PowerPoint. I have a video tutorial on that. And you can make beautiful slides in PowerPoint. So like, why pay the money for Prezi and why go through that learning curve to use it, and why deal with a browser-based application? Even when you get the app and download it, it's so laggy when you use pictures. You don't get that lag when you use PowerPoint, and you already have PowerPoint. You already know how to use it. So that's why you can make good presentations in Prezi, but like just use PowerPoint.
I will tell my quick Prezi story, and then we can talk about accessibility.
Yeah.
So the first time when it first came out, everybody's excited about it, and the first Prezi I saw was someone who had, for all I could tell, took like a regular PowerPoint presentation and put it into Prezi, and so every slide would do that swoopy thing.
Oh no, no swoops! Don't do swoops.
No, and the presenter did their talk, and someone interrupted with a question and said, blah blah, and the presenter said, oh yeah, I have that answer. It's a few slides back, but close your eyes because when I do this, people tend to get nauseous. And I'm thinking to myself, it's the first time I'd ever seen a Prezi in person. I had seen it online, and I said, that can't be. That's ridiculous. And so I watched, and they went like this backwards, and I was like turned green. I was like, is there anything worse than making your audience physically sick from your slides? That's got to be bad. Okay, so that's my. I'm with you on. I'd actually push Prezi a little bit lower than
Well, it's, now, because I went and looked at it, because I also made a video comparing all of these. So I did a little, catch-up research, and it seems like Prezi has toned that down. Mm-hmm. It seems like they've now built in some features to prevent people from being able to do that, which is why it got a little bump. And yeah, when I would make Prezis, I just disabled all of that anyway. So again, it was just a PowerPoint in Prezi.
Yeah. So, I feel like PowerPoint has adopted some of the good features from these other tools.
Yes.
Like the morph transition is kind of like Prezi Lite in that way. Mm-hmm. And it seems like Apple has kind of stopped stopped supporting Keynote. Yeah. So it's like not keeping up. And then Google Slides is I think you and I are in total agreement. It's great. It's good. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles in PowerPoint, but it allows you to do, whatever, 60-70% of what or for most people, probably 90% of what they need.
Right. No data viz. I was playing around with their graphs.
Yeah, it's not
good. Not good.
But I'll also say, and this is a credit to the PowerPoint team, that I always found the PowerPoint Excel merge to not be very good. It was pretty glitchy and it was hard to use. And I find it much better in the Office 365 version. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I used Keynote during that time. I use Office 365 now, so I don't.
Right. Yeah. So Mike had a question about accessibility, and Megan and I have talked about accessibility. So maybe Mike, if you just want to unmute yourself, or I can unmute you, and you can just ask your question, and then Megan, if you want to chime in too, that'd be great. This is obviously a big topic and something I'm really interested in. So let's see.
I just clarified
there we go.
about linear, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I guess my question was just around the 4-3 consideration. And is that consideration something that folks who require accessibility accommodations, like, are there things that need to be considered? Like, do people consider 4:3 as an aspect ratio because of displays, or are there accessibility considerations that need to be kept in mind?
As far as I know, it's just about displays. It's just about the tech. And I would argue that, with widescreen, you have more space, which means you can make things bigger and you can make things much more accessible with a widescreen. And that is one of the reasons I strongly advocate for a widescreen, is because of that. You can make the design much more accessible with more space.
But on this, so to take that question on accessibility in kind of a different route, do you think about, or how do you think about accessibility for your online courses? Do you have a plan or a strategy or techniques with that?
Yeah, so there's lots of layers of accessibility, and the first layer I apply to everything I do in my own slides, and what is just built into what I teach is accessibility through design. A lot of people are currently designing very inaccessible presentations. Small font size is the number one thing. Too much crammed onto one slide is another. Not having visuals is an inaccessible way to present. We can talk about aphantasia as one example, which is something that I have. And so when you just have all text, that is not accessible. So a lot of the ways that people structure their presentations can be more accessible just through better design. And so that is sort of step one. Then there's specific, and like color blindness and things like that, trying to make sure that your color choices don't, won't look the same. But that is hard because there's different types of color blindness. And, when I've started researching this, what works for one disability is the opposite of what another disability needs. So that's been a struggle for me, I'll be honest. But, I just try to make sure that contrast is on point. And I knew it. So like, I was like going to ask, I know somebody knows about a contrast checking tool. Like there's tools like that online to use just to make sure that contrast is at least high and things like that. So that's layer one. Then layer two is thinking about people who are deaf. And that is something, so for my YouTube videos, we pay for professional captions. It's expensive. And sadly, I haven't really been able to cover the cost of that for my online courses yet. So, I hate to say it, but it's the truth. And I do hope that one day I can sort of make enough with my courses where everything has those professional transcriptions, but my course is 6 hours and captions are $1.25 per minute. So, it's just really expensive. And then there's another layer, and I'm not necessarily going in order. So it's just different components to think about is people who are blind. And that is one area I still have to develop my skills on. That involves things like typing in alternative text for images and making sure that people can just click through your presentation with a screen reader. That's not something I've been particularly good at and definitely need to improve. So those are just sort of first thoughts about accessibility and how I do it and where I'm lacking in my courses.
Yeah, those are really good. Megan Longoria is on the line, and she was on my podcast a couple months ago talking about this. Megan, I don't know if you have anything you want to add
Oh yeah,
to that.
please. Megan knows. I
Yeah.
look to Megan for.
Yeah,
for
me too.
advice.
Yeah.
Actually, I will put a link. A while back, I just did a whole Twitter thread
Right.
about making your
Yeah.
presentations more accessible. So a lot of it's already been mentioned. Use big font, color contrast. Make sure you check for color blindness and try not to use color as the only means of communication. So that's the same for database as it is for
Thank
any
you.
kind of
Mhm.
presentation. I think the thing that people overlook the most is kind of cognitive accessibility. So,
Yeah.
when is it appropriate to abbreviate things on your slides, and knowing your audience for that,
Mhm.
and making sure that people can actually read what you put on your slide and understand it. We forget a lot of that. What kind of fonts we use not only makes it gives it personality, but also determines how readable it is. Sans serif fonts versus serif, that type of thing.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's
Those are
and
good.
yeah, and the design layer, like all that kind of stuff falls into that, like typography and alignment, font size, all that kind of stuff. And that's why, like, I talk about like cognitive overload, because that really is important to presentation design. And that's why I was saying earlier too, like the 45-minute quick tips and tricks session, you don't really have time to get into that kind of layer. So yeah, thanks Megan for bringing that up.
I'll add one more to this accessibility discussion, because I had a conversation with a colleague of mine actually who has Sjogren's syndrome, and part of Sjogren's syndrome is dry eye and issue with focus. And she was telling me that, especially in small rooms, when she would go to a presentation and it's a white background with black text on it, that when the white shows up, it takes her much longer to focus because of Sjogren's. So even though that black white is really high contrast and that's great, having that like kind of bright white background can cause problems for some people. So another thing to consider. And I've always shied away from using that like white background and using sort of like just even a very, very subtle gray, like that first box in the PowerPoint, to lighten that just a bit. But I think you both hit on it. And I think part of it is also, we don't necessarily understand all the kinds of accessibility needs. And we're certainly, I'll speak for myself, at least it's not always in the front of my head as I'm posting things or making things, and it really should be. But yeah, it's an interesting and important topic.
Yeah.
Are there any last questions?
Ooh, so Anna, sort of the opposite of that.
Yeah.
So I have really bad astigmatism, and
Me
black
too.
backgrounds with light text, I just can't.
Oh, really?
Like once in a while is fine. And again, it depends on the font. Is it thick? Is it thin? Is it big? Is it small? Right. There's like a lot of things that apply at once, but dark backgrounds and light text are something I can't process very easily.
So we're now at the stage we've just eliminated dark text. People are laughing, I think, right? Like I think we all want to try to do better, and we want to try to make everything successful, but like it's just like it's like so
there's no perfect checklist you can have. It takes it's about learning these general guidelines and principles, and then being intentional and thinking about this every single time you create a slide. So I do have sometimes dark backgrounds and light text, but I do other things. They're huge words, they're gigantic, or I add in other elements to break up. So it's not just like a huge chunk of one color and then like a little bit of text, because then that's like too much. But so like every single slide needs this kind of thinking, and that's really what people need to learn is how to do that.
That's great. Yeah. All right, so before we wrap up, just real quickly, I just want to show you the list for next week. If you have time and want to show up, I'm trying to use different times over the course of the day. So Monday, Graham McDonald and Claire Bowen from the Urban Institute, who do a lot of interesting tech and data work in research, we'll be chatting with. Rob Santos, Diana Elliott, who did this really cool project on the 2020 census last year, will be talking about the census and the impact of the coronavirus. And then we kind of turn back to Data Viz. Manuel Lima will be here on Wednesday, Gregor Eisch and Lisa Charlotte Roast from Data Wrapper, and then Friday afternoon, Enrico Bertini, Moritz Steffner from the Data Viz, the Data Stories podcast. And then the week after, I'm already lining up. Looks like we're going to have some authors join us in a variety of different areas, so it should be fun. Echo, thanks very much for doing this. This was great. This was fun. And yes, these recordings will be made available. We're doing them as fast as we can. They'll be up on that Urban site and the Urban YouTube page. So I put Echo's site in there earlier. Go check it out. Go, register for her classes so she can afford the transcription person. They are cheap. Yeah. Echo, thanks so much. Take care.
Thank you.
Stay well and healthy, everybody, and have a great weekend. And enjoy. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for coming, everybody. I'll see you on Twitter or whatever.
Thanks, Echo. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.